Top 10 Shocking Facts About King James and the Bible, the secrets they didn't want you to know. Discover the truth behind King James and the top conformities that King James imposed on the Bible, forever changing its narrative and shaping the beliefs of billions of people around the world. Prepare to be shocked by these hidden facts that will forever change the way you view the Bible. The hidden agenda, King James' political motivations. King James had clear political motivations for commissioning the King James Version of the Bible. At the time, England was experiencing religious turmoil, and the kingdom was divided between factions loyal to the Anglican Church and those who supported the Puritan movement. To consolidate power, King James aimed to create a new translation that would appeal to both factions, and by doing so, solidify his reign. He used the translation process as a means to centralize authority in the monarchy, making it clear that the divine right of kings was an essential element of his rule. This idea was reinforced in the KJV through passages like Romans 13:1-2, which states, "Let every soul be subject unto the high powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God." Additionally, King James actively sought to suppress the Geneva Bible, a popular translation among the Puritans, which contained marginal notes that challenged the authority of kings and the established church. By promoting the KJV and suppressing the Geneva Bible, King James effectively silenced dissenting voices and reinforced his control over religious matters in England. The biased translators. The translators responsible for the KJV were not impartial scholars, but rather a group of Anglican clergymen, many of whom held high-ranking positions in the church. As influential members of the ecclesiastical hierarchy, these translators had a vested interest in maintaining the status quo and preserving the power structures of the church and monarchy. Their biases were evident in their translation choices. For instance, the KJV translators chose to translate the Greek word ecclesia as church instead of assembly or congregation. This decision reinforced the idea of an institutionalized church, centralizing power in the hands of the church hierarchy and the monarchy. Another example is the translation of the Greek word basileia as kingdom rather than reign or rule. This choice emphasized the concept of a hierarchical, divinely ordained kingdom, aligning with King James' belief in the divine right of kings. Furthermore, the translators' allegiances to the Anglican Church and King James led them to downplay the radical and revolutionary elements of Jesus' teachings. Passages that could be interpreted as challenging the authority of kings or the established church were often translated in ways that diffused their impact, ensuring that the KJV would not be seen as a threat to the existing power structures. These instances of bias and manipulation in the KJV demonstrate the extent to which the translators' personal beliefs and interests shape the biblical narrative, ultimately altering the message and meaning of the text. The borrowed translations. The King James Version was by no means a completely original work. Instead, it heavily relied on earlier English translations, including the Tyndale Bible and the Geneva Bible. These earlier versions served as a foundation for the KJV, with the translators often copying entire passages word for word. For example, it is estimated that around 80% of the New Testament in the KJV was taken directly from Tyndale's translation, with only minor revisions. The KJV translators also borrowed heavily from the Geneva Bible, particularly for the Old Testament and the marginal notes. In some instances, the KJV is nearly identical to the Geneva Bible, with only a few word changes to differentiate the two. This reliance on previous translations raises questions about the originality of the KJV and the extent to which it accurately reflects the true intent of the biblical authors. By borrowing so heavily from pre-existing translations, the KJV translators may have inadvertently perpetuated biases and inaccuracies present in those earlier works. As a result, our understanding of the Bible may be shaped more by the theological perspectives of Tyndale, Geneva, and other earlier translators than by the original biblical authors themselves. The infamous Wicked Bible. In 1631, a version of the KJV known as the Wicked Bible was published, containing a shocking misprint that would forever taint its reputation. The error occurred in Exodus 2:14, where the word not was accidentally omitted from the commandment "Thou shalt not commit adultery," making it read "Thou shalt commit adultery." This glaring mistake, along with several other misprints in the Wicked Bible, underscores the potential for human error and manipulation in the translation process. The fact that such a significant error could slip through the rigorous editing and review process calls into question the integrity of the entire translation. The Wicked Bible also highlights the influence of the printing press on the dissemination of the Bible, as well as the potential for corruption and control over the text by those in charge of the printing process. The printers responsible for the Wicked Bible were fined and had their printing license revoked, but the incident serves as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and scrutiny when it comes to the preservation and transmission of sacred texts. The deceptive exclusion of the Apocrypha, the battle for biblical canon. The King James Version initially contained the Apocrypha, a series of religious writings that were integrated into the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. However, the Apocrypha's exclusion from later editions of the KJV reflects an ongoing battle for control over the biblical canon. The Apocrypha comprises numerous books, including Tobit, Judith, Wisdom, and Sirach, which were part of the Christian Old Testament for centuries. Although these texts were revered by early Christians, they were met with skepticism by some Protestant reformers, such as Martin Luther, who argued that they lacked the same divine inspiration as other biblical books. The Council of Trent, an ecumenical gathering of high-ranking Catholic officials, reaffirmed the canonicity of the Apocrypha, in part as a response to the Protestant Reformation. This decision heightened the tension between Catholics and Protestants, with the latter choosing to exclude these texts from their biblical canon. The removal of the Apocrypha from the KJV can be seen as an attempt to assert Protestant authority and establish a distinct religious identity, separate from Catholicism. This choice not only reinforced the power structures within the Protestant Church but also limited the scope of biblical knowledge, effectively shaping the spiritual lives of millions of believers. Fabricating the biblical narrative, the art of manipulating characters and stories. Throughout history, various religious and political forces have manipulated biblical characters and stories to serve their own agendas. By inventing and distorting these narratives, they have significantly shaped our understanding of the Bible. One striking example is the conflation of Mary Magdalene with the unnamed sinful woman in Luke 7:36-50. This synthesis of characters created a distorted image of Mary Magdalene as a repentant prostitute, which was perpetuated in the Western Church for centuries. This manipulation served to undermine her significance as a close disciple of Jesus and diminish her role in the early Christian community. Another instance involves the figure of Lilith, the alleged first wife of Adam, who appears in Jewish folklore and some apocryphal texts. Lilith is portrayed as a rebellious and dangerous woman who defied God's will. By vilifying Lilith, religious authorities were able to promote a particular view of women, reinforcing traditional gender roles and the subordination of women within the religious hierarchy. Recent discoveries, such as the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, have shed light on alternate perspectives and challenged the traditional biblical narrative. These texts, which were excluded from the canonical Bible, offer new insights into the lives of Jesus and his disciples, revealing different aspects of their teachings and relationships. The manipulation of biblical characters and stories underscores the need for a critical examination of the sacred texts and a willingness to question the established narrative. By delving deeper into the historical context and considering alternative perspectives, we can strive for a more accurate and nuanced understanding of the Bible and its teachings. The transmission of biblical texts, the influence of scribes and copyists. The Bible has been copied and transmitted by scribes and copyists throughout history, a process which has inevitably introduced errors, omissions, and alterations into the sacred texts. These changes, whether intentional or accidental, have shaped our understanding of the Bible and its teachings. One example of such alterations is the Comma Johanneum, a controversial passage found in 1 John 5:7-8. This passage, which explicitly supports the doctrine of the Trinity, is absent from the majority of ancient Greek manuscripts and is considered a later addition by many scholars. The Comma Johanneum's inclusion in the Textus Receptus, the Greek text underlying the KJV, demonstrates how scribes and copyists could introduce new ideas or reinforce existing beliefs through their work. Another instance is the story of the woman caught in adultery, which is missing from the earliest and most reliable Greek manuscripts. Many biblical scholars believe that this passage was added by a later scribe, perhaps to emphasize Jesus' teachings on forgiveness and mercy. The presence of this story in the KJV and other translations highlights the influence of scribes on the biblical narrative. These examples reveal the complex process of copying and transmitting biblical texts, a process that has been subject to human error and manipulation. By acknowledging the impact of scribes and copyists on the Bible, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the text's historical development and better understand the factors that have shaped its content. The evolution of biblical interpretation, from literalism to contextual analysis. Throughout history, the interpretation of the Bible has evolved as scholars, theologians, and believers have sought to better understand and apply its teachings. This evolution has encompassed a wide range of approaches, from strict literalism to nuanced contextual analysis. In the early days of Christianity, biblical interpretation was primarily focused on allegory, with scholars such as Origen and Augustine seeking hidden spiritual meanings in the text. This approach gave way to a more literal interpretation during the Protestant Reformation, with reformers like Martin Luther and John Calvin advocating for the plain and simple meaning of the text. However, the rise of biblical scholarship in the 18th and 19th centuries led to new methodologies, such as historical critical analysis, which sought to uncover the original context and meaning of the biblical texts. This approach emphasized the importance of understanding the historical, cultural, and linguistic factors that shape the biblical narrative. Today, biblical interpretation continues to evolve, incorporating insights from archaeology, linguistics, and other fields of study. Modern scholars employ a variety of methods, such as source criticism, form criticism, and redaction criticism, to better understand the origins and development of the biblical texts. This ongoing evolution of biblical interpretation highlights the complex and multifaceted nature of the Bible. By embracing a range of interpretive approaches and considering the historical context of the biblical texts, we can strive for a more accurate and meaningful understanding of the sacred scriptures. The impact of archaeology. Unearthing the biblical world. Archaeology has played a crucial role in enhancing our understanding of the Bible and its historical context. Excavations and discoveries throughout the Middle East have shed light on the cultures, societies, and events that shape the biblical narrative, providing valuable insights into the lives of the people mentioned in the scriptures. One notable archaeological find is the Tel Dan stele, an inscribed stone from the 9th century BC that provides the first extra-biblical evidence of King David's existence. This discovery has helped to corroborate the biblical account of David's reign and has sparked further research into the historical reality of the United Monarchy. Similarly, the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the mid-20th century, have revolutionized biblical scholarship. These ancient manuscripts, which include fragments from every book of the Old Testament, have provided valuable information about the textual history of the Bible and the religious beliefs of the Jewish community during the Second Temple period. Archaeological discoveries also have the potential to challenge traditional interpretations of the Bible. For example, the discovery of an inscription referring to a temple dedicated to the Canaanite goddess Asherah suggests that the ancient Israelites may have worshipped multiple gods, contrary to the monotheistic portrayal in the biblical text. By uncovering the historical realities of the biblical world, archaeology enables us to better understand the context in which the sacred texts were written and to reevaluate long-held assumptions about their meaning. The role of art and culture in shaping biblical interpretation. Art and culture have played a significant role in shaping our understanding of the Bible, as the creative expressions of artists, poets, and musicians often reflect and influence prevailing interpretations of the sacred text. Throughout history, these cultural artifacts have served as a medium for exploring the deeper meanings of the biblical narrative and have shaped the way we perceive and engage with the scriptures. One of the most famous examples is Michelangelo's frescoes on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, which depict scenes from the Old Testament, including the creation of Adam and the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. These powerful images have helped to shape our understanding of these biblical stories and have inspired countless generations of artists to explore the themes of sin, redemption, and divine grace. Similarly, the poetry of John Milton, particularly his epic poem Paradise Lost, has had a profound impact on our understanding of the biblical narrative. By providing a vivid and imaginative retelling of the fall of humanity, Milton's work has influenced the way we perceive the characters of Adam, Eve, and Satan, as well as the broader themes of free will, obedience, and divine justice. In more recent times, contemporary artists and musicians have continued to engage with the Bible, offering new interpretations and perspectives on its stories and themes. Works such as The Last Temptation of Christ by Nikos Kazantzakis and the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice demonstrate the enduring relevance and adaptability of the biblical narrative in the modern world. The influence of art and culture on biblical interpretation highlights the importance of engaging with the Bible through a variety of lenses and creative expressions. By exploring the rich tapestry of artistic and cultural interpretations, we can deepen our appreciation of the Bible's multifaceted nature and enrich our own understanding of its teachings. For centuries, Christians have read the Bible as the infallible Word of God, shaped directly by divine hands, but we now know the Bible has a far more complex history. It was written, edited, and compiled over centuries by human authors with diverse perspectives, cultural influences, and even political agendas. Recognizing the Bible's human origins does not diminish its spiritual power or relevance. Rather, it helps us read with open minds and seeking hearts, ready to receive fresh wisdom and new insights. We can overcome the stumbling blocks of dogma and see beyond surface meanings to the profound truths within. The Bible remains a source of truth and guidance, but its depths are only revealed through seeking and questioning, by searching as for hidden treasure. As Jeremiah says, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Wisdom comes, not through blind belief, but through embracing the journey, through walking humbly with God, listening for the still, small voice. Jesus knew this well. He taught in parables to awaken seeking in his followers. He said, "Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. Yet for those with childlike faith, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." Spiritual growth requires an active and open engagement with the Bible. It invites us into a dynamic dialogue with God, where we bring our questions, doubts, hopes and fears, where we seek understanding through prayer, meditation, and lived experience. The Bible comes alive, infused with personal meaning and spiritual power. This is the Bible's gift for our awakening journey, hidden treasure waiting to be found. May we have eyes to see and ears to hear the wisdom lovingly crafted within its pages, and may we follow where it leads us, into a deeper knowing of God and a more profound understanding of what it means to live in Christ.